So what does it mean that, it's not just kind thoughts and deeds are a blessing, but how do we figure out where to put those and how to give those? What's the method to the madness? And to live and to give and to do, not because we have to, but because it's a part that moves our soul, so that when we do those things, we forward everything, right? We forward everything. And I know I told you guys last week about my kids being in the band, and there was some pressure for me to do all the things I did when the older two were in the band. And I just wasn't feeling all of it, right? And to know that that's okay, because over time you can change the deeds that you do, right? You can move those into other directions, or you choose the part that still aligns with you and then move in, so that we all prosper. Because if we're doing things because we got to and we have to, and I feel guilty if I'm not gonna, then I don't know that we prosper. I don't know that we're fully moving forward. So our deeds can be financially, it can be time, it can be sharing our resources. I know there's, I just saw this really, really nifty thing where it wasn't around here, but they constructed this, it's almost like those lending libraries that are around where people put their books in and you give and you take and it's free and it's all great. They did this with produce. So all the people that the stuff's coming in now, and I don't know about you, but my son, his garden, I end up with like literally 25 zucchinis. Sometimes you get more of something than the other, and then you can trade. So they built this thing that was like a lending library, and all the people would put in their produce, and you give and take, or take what you need. It was great. It was, that idea. So, your resources, and to share those, especially when you have more than what your family can possibly use. And then how do we use the resources, everywhere for the whole planet, and what's leading us into that way. And there's a story that's been out, and I was able to listen to more of the research behind it, but it's about our seabed, particularly in the Hawaii area. There's in the Pacific Ocean, there's this huge swath of ocean. What they knew 100 years ago had a ton of metals on the bottom, and the metals are in the form of these like big old chunks, because of when, much like our coal gets done, when the animals die and they get into the earth, and then over time things turn into coal or to oil and things like that. Kind of the same thing happens on the bottom of the ocean, where, let's say, a tooth falls out of a shark, right? And it lands at the bottom. Over thousands of years, the sediment and stuff that runs through the ocean gets attached to that. And a lot of that is like these little particles of metals. Who knew, right? So then we get these almost like moon rocks littering the bottom of the Pacific that's got all this metal in it. And right now, metal is a big deal, because we're moving towards an era where batteries are really important, right? So now there's like this scramble for where to get more metal. The first thing is, this is like 20 some years ago, when I was heading up Earth Force for groups of middle schoolers in Erie. I don't even know if they have Earth Force anymore, but we did all the things, all the environmental things around Erie County. And one of the speakers, I'll never forget, said, in the future, one of the jobs people will have will be mining our dumps for metal. And that's stuck in my head. And I'm like, that's not even something that was talked about in this article. I feel like writing all the news places and saying, what about this angle? Instead of, some of what we're all talking about now. Because think of all the metal, really, that's probably in these areas. And, and that's one way we can use our resources, and actually, then we all prosper, right? We all prosper. But at the bottom of the ocean, there are these metals, and there's, who knew, there's this international little group that was formed almost 100 years ago when countries started realizing how much was under there to regulate this, but we know, like with anything, it doesn't always go perfect, right? So there's a couple of humongous companies vying for this material right now. And scientists are saying things like, we need to study more. Yeah, all that's down there, but there's also a bunch of animal life that we don't even know what they are yet and what their function is for our whole ecology. We don't know that. And to mine at the bottom, you would literally be making dust storms in the ocean. And one of the commentators or reporters I was listening to said, we know less about the Pacific Ocean than we do about the moon. Wow. And it's kind of true. So it's like, how do we all prosper without messing up something else and unprospering that, right? How do we use, and I don't have all the answers, but to be willing to see not just where our mind takes us. Our mind says, oh my goodness, we need metals to make these batteries so we don't have to use fossil fuels and mess up the atmosphere, right? And the other part of our brain is saying, but we don't want to mess up the ocean in the process, right? So where's the alignment of the heart and the head? Now I know I'm using like a big thing, but you can use this for anything in your life, right? Sometimes it's just easier to think about something that maybe we're not exactly attached to totally. So can we take what's in our head and then feel it with our heart and then come up with a way that we can live and give and do, and where we're all prospering, we're all in it together. Tiny example for me on how my brain has worked with this kind of issue is we all know that recycling is kind of like an in and out conversation around here, depending on who has the rights at the time. It's stupid financial. I mean, it's just nothing but finances when it comes to recycling around here. So I did some money crunching for just me in terms of recycling and my family. And I found that there's a place in New Jersey where you can buy this box that will recycle just about everything that the dumpsters in Franklin will not recycle, right? So if I drive to Franklin, I can recycle glass, plastic bottles, anything with a screw top, some cardboard, newspapers. It's great, but it's limited. This place in New Jersey will take all the wrappers, all the everythings, all the pens, when the pen runs out of ink and it's not a refillable one, all the stuff. It's $100 for a box. Sounds really expensive, right? But if I'm taking all the stuff to Franklin and I'll put all the stuff in this box and composting the rest, what do I need the regular trash dude for? So it's like, is it really, when we actually, because my heart said we have to do this and there's got to be a way. So how do we do that? Then we have to figure it out, right? So for me, at least for my family, that's some way that we can give back, right? And use the way we feel good about, and also be okay money-wise, because it actually works out to less money in the long run, which is crazy to think about, if you take the time to do that. And as an aside, all the shipping boxes I get, because I admit I'm an Amazon girl. So all the boxes I take to a local farm and they use them for their CSA. It's like, are we willing to just like do the thing, I guess? And that doesn't matter what part. It doesn't have to be recycling for you. It can be, what is it? What is it that your heart is taking you towards, is something that needs taken care of, right? Something that in our thoughts and our deeds becomes a blessing, not just for us, but then works as an everything. Because again, we remember, and I say it every week, you are the divine walking around on this planet, right? You are the manifestation of the universe. So how are we acting that way in the moment in our deeds? And it's never perfect, right? No one said it had to be perfect, but are we willing to sit and align our heart with our head? And this move for me has taken literally years to go back and forth with. So I don't know that there's a time limit on it. And this is paraphrased, but we've all heard the saying, to those who have much, more will be given. To those who have nothing, even that will be taken away, right? And at first here, that sounds awful, right? At first here, it's like, what is that? But if we take it as our heart-centeredness, to those who have much, to those who recognize that we are the universe walking around, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot going on there. Then even more is possible, right? Even more is possible, and we can figure it all out. We can move in that direction. If we're not feeling that, if we don't recognize that, if we think it's a dog eat dog world out there, then of course the dog's gonna eat the dog, because we don't think we have anything to begin with to even work with, right? So I don't know, that again, it's taken me years with that phrase too. Because I'm like, let's just throw that one out the window. Somebody didn't know what they were talking about when they wrote that down. And yet it's to recognize that we are already more. We are already more. So of course we can figure this out and then move forward so that our deeds and our thoughts are blessings always. Because we're not stewards of the world. We're co-creators with the world, right? We're not the managers. We're the co-life people. And as manifest, and to recognize, we are manifestations of divine, but so is the rest of the planet, right? So there's that giving back, the energy that everything is abundant. It's just, if we move from a place of recognizing that we are source, then the flow is easier, or we do start to recognize how it all comes together and how we can work within it instead of trying to manage it or get what we need from it.